Hey guys, and welcome back to the Spruce and Linen channel. I'm Janelle, and today I'm going to teach you how to weave with raya loops. So a lot of you asked me when I did that floral weaving, we will throw up a picture here so you can see what I'm talking about, how I did this. So I am going to show you the green yarn part of that weaving essentially. This is the technique that I used to achieve that. So let's get started. I've already put this little warp on my loom and I just did a few rows of plain weave just so I have something to kind of pull down onto. So to start your raya loop, all I'm going to do is just tie a little knot because this is going to get hidden anyway. So later on you could tuck this back into the strings behind. Now to do your actual raya loop, I'm taking my yarn in my right hand, I'm bringing it back behind a warp string, creating this little loop, and then I'm going to pull the yarn through that loop and then you tighten it with the other end. And that's one loop. So I'm going to do that again. Bring it back around a warp string, create a loop, and then pull this through. Pull the top to decide the length of your loop, and then the back piece of yarn, this one here, to pull it tight. So you can see that you can make them any length that you want. So you could use this as a way to do your fringe if you don't actually want to cut fringe. Maybe you don't like cutting it straight. This is a really great way to have sort of an organic feel at the bottom of your weaving without having to cut anything after. You could definitely still steam this out so that it lays a little flatter afterward, but it is a nice way to do your fringe if you're not a fan of that like really straight fringe at the bottom of your weavings. Oops. Now I will say too, if you're using more than one strand, let's say you want to mix yarns, such as, say I'm going to use 2 pieces of chunky yarn, you might want to go around 2 strings instead of just one, because if it gets too bulky, it's going to want to make your warp bulge out at the sides, which is definitely not what you want. So as you can see, I'm kind of just making these lengths at random. You could definitely get them more even if you wanted to, but I think that's one of the nice things with the raya loops, and what I did with that floral weaving was just make it really organic and not try to be too perfect. Like a lot of them were a similar length, but I kind of tried not to make them all exact so that it would have more of a natural feel. All right, so now I have one kind of full row of those raya loops. And if you're wanting to do multiple rows, I would highly recommend doing 1 or 2 rows, I'm going to do 2, of plain weave between each row so that you're providing your wall hanging with a bit of structure, because I did these raya loops on every single string, there's nothing connecting your warp strings at this point. So we want to always make sure that there's some structure in between those rows. And you certainly don't have to go straight across with these. You could do them at random throughout your weaving. They don't have to be at the bottom, they can be out in the middle. There's lots of different ways to do this. And when I work from right to left, I still wrap this around the same direction. It's faster for me, and it honestly doesn't really matter. So you can, like I said, you can adjust the length by pulling on your main string here. So now I'm kind of making them a lot shorter. So you can see how you could really add a lot of layers with these, especially if at the bottom you make them really long and then you just get shorter and shorter with each row. It would have a really neat effect. And you can definitely use this technique with any size of yarn, whether it's thin or thick. Again, if you're using super thick, you want to go around more than one warp string at a time, so you're not kind of overcrowding your warp. I kind of like when they're not all intentionally the same length. It has that, just that really organic feel. And this looks really great with a mix of yarns too, kind of like I did in that heart weaving, and you guys have probably seen me do before in other weavings, where I use a number of different kinds of yarns mixed together for my fringe. You can do that with your Raya loops as well. And again, just adding that plain weave in between, giving your piece some structure. Now I'm not being too precise here, as you can see, but hopefully that gives you the idea of it. And it just, I love the texture it provides. I will flip it around just to show you the back structure. So you can see here my plain weave is just kind of holding everything together, even though those Raya loops are around every single warp string. And that is weaving with Raya loops. As you can see, we're starting to get some really cool texture, and you can change the length, making them really long or really short, depending on what effect you want to go for. So I hope you found this video helpful and that you've now found another technique that you can add to your weavings. If you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications when I post new videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, and welcome. I'm always croaky when I say that. The dog keeps barking and it's distracting. And that is oh no, battery low. Oh, that's fine. And that is weaving with Raya loops. As you can see, we are getting, okay. The basement is really cold because it's actually warm outside, so I haven't been turning the heater on. Therefore, it is freezing in this room.